AG, in your book, Break the Wheel, you give us a behind the scenes look at what happened during the Chauvin case. Are there any other highlights or things that you want to uplift for people who are going to read this book, who have not read this book, but just to give them a taste of more, because you're giving it to us, but just a few things that you would like to highlight about the book itself?
You know what, Nina, I was so impressed with those ordinary, regular people who stopped to raise their voices and to pull out their cell phones and take what happened to George Floyd. This is a man they didn't know. They didn't know him. He was just a human being suffering, and they stopped and they did the best they could to try to protect his life. Then they show up a year later to testify about what they saw. To me, if you're ever cynical about whether people are good or not, all you need to do is look at those people on that corner. And here's the thing, Nina, some were black, some were white. Some were Latino. It was a bouquet of humanity. Some were kids, some were older. And so it was everybody. And then when the people were protesting what happened to George Floyd, that was a multiracial group. Even though everybody knew this happened to a black person, they said, I might not be black, but I think this is wrong, and I'm gonna get in the street with my sign and raise my voice. So, those are things that I want people to feel like hope about, right? This is a tragedy, but there's hope after tragedy. If we organize, if we get together, if we see each other as each other's fellow human being, there are great things that can happen. And we need to keep the pressure on Congress. There's no excuse for them not passing the George Floyd Justice Policing Act.
None at all.
And you just mentioned the national database, the national registry, to enter those bad cops into that registry so they can't leave one department and just go to another. You asked me about that a moment ago, and I just want to make clear that's in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
Yeah, we need it. I mean, we absolutely need it. And it will help law enforcement too, because most law enforcement officers, like any profession, you don't want bad people there. You want people who are noble, because it hurts everybody. AG, and my final question for you during this interview, and hopefully you'll come back and be with us, is a lot of people are cynical right now. They really have lost hope in systems, period, but especially the legal system. I know we're talking about policing, but there's an entire legal system from from the courts to the streets. We're talking about the street side, which happens to be police and sheriffs and the other law enforcement agencies. What would you say to people? I guess you already gave an example about the bystanders that came to the rescue of George Floyd. But what would you say to people who would say, Attorney General, we like all the recommendations that you are making. We like what you're saying in this book about how we change things, how we end police violence. But you know what, sir? I don't believe that this is ever gonna happen. I don't believe that we can do this as a nation. What would you say to people who want to get involved, but they don't believe that their involvement will make a difference?
Well, Rosa Parks didn't think that segregation was ever gonna end, but she still said, I'm not moving and I don't care, and we're gonna take this as far as we can take it. Martin Luther King said the same thing, Malcolm X said the same thing. All of our ancestors who ever stood up for freedom didn't know what the outcome was gonna be. They weren't guaranteed that there were gonna be love and peace and nirvana, but they stood up anyway, and that's what we must do now. This is an organizing moment. Get involved now, and if you start now, you never know where we might take it. We might see a new birth of freedom in this country.
I know that's right.